The Albuquerque Journal reported this week on a new survey of New Mexico teens that showed young people in our state have used drugs at a higher rate than many of their peers across the country. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention conduct an annual survey of youth behavior across the United States. Now, about a quarter of young people who answered these survey questions about health and well-being reported that they had used marijuana or consumed alcohol in the past 30 days. Now, what does this mean to you? Are you concerned about young people in your family or your community using drugs and alcohol? Get in touch with us here. Tell us what you think. Find us online at newmexicoinfocus.org or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter. Our line panelists are ready to weigh in this week. I'm joined by Daniel Foley, former House Minority Whip. Former State Representative Janice Arnold-Jones is here. Former State Senator Dede Feldman is here. And HVB Harry Van Buren is back. He's a professor in the UNM Anderson School of Management. Now, first, I'd like to start with a really simple question around this table. Did these numbers in this survey, Daniel, I'll start with you, surprise you? Were you shocked? Were you not shocked? Were you somewhere in the middle? How did it hit you?
I was not shocked, but I was hurt.
Ah, okay. That's an interesting way to put it. I think I can relate to that. What hurt you about it?
Well, I got 4 kids, so to realize, based by the numbers,
right.
I've got 4 kids that are in the age brackets that they're talking to. I mean, I got a sophomore and a senior, and I got a sophomore in college and a kid that just graduated. It also hurt that it also was hurtful based on how we are as a state. I mean, these kind of numbers, if you're a business looking at moving to New Mexico and you see this,
yes.
What does it tell you? What does it say? What does it say? What does it say to the potential employment pool you're drawing from? And most importantly, what does it say about these young people?
Yeah.
I mean, I just got to tell you, Gene, I grew up in a small town in Cloudcroft, in New Mexico, small town Cloudcroft, and listen, the statute of limitations have run out. We drank plenty of beer growing up in high school. There were a few kids that smoked a little weed.
That's right.
That was it. That was it. It didn't exist. Within years of me leaving, I'm talking 4 or 5 years, meth, crack,
right.
heroin showed up in a town that you never saw existed. Now apparently it's permeating everywhere. I don't know what the answer is. The answer clearly isn't locking more people up.
Right.
But to see these numbers at these young ages, it just tells you, things aren't moving in a good direction.
Yeah.
For us.
Senator, you've been, looking at this during your time in the legislature and for a long time now. The numbers haven't really seemed to drop significantly over the years. Something hasn't quite taken hold here. When I look at the numbers for heroin and crack, Dan mentioned crack and the really hard drugs.
Yes.
Those are the ones that really scared me. That's the bit, marijuana, we can tackle that, but this other stuff.
I think the heroin numbers are relatively constant.
Yeah.
It has been a problem in northern New Mexico and in certain parts of what used to be my district, Duranes and elsewhere. What's new is the opioid addiction.
Right.
And the statistic, I feel hurt like Dan, to be second highest
That's
in
right.
drug abuse from young people. Yet, you have to believe that the actions of government do have something to do with this.
Okay, in what way?
And, well, first of all, it's an incomplete picture. Number one, we have seen decreases in teen drinking, teen binge drinking.
That's right.
We have seen decreases in teen smoking because there have been concerted programs using the tobacco funds to prevent teens from smoking. Now, in the behavioral health area, however, we have seen the systematic destruction of treatment programs.
Right.
And so there are no prevention programs in New Mexico anymore. They've been gone long ago. And now there are very few treatment, particularly detox programs here in New Mexico. And
key
so
distinction,
Small
detox.
wonder,
Yeah.
small wonder that those particular hardcore drug addicted people are passing it on to their children and their friends, and they're just not getting treatment, even if they want it.
Right.
That's what really hurts me.
Yeah.
Even if they want it. And I had so many parents that called me and begged me to help them get their children into treatment programs. and it was rarely possible.
Wow. Janice, I have to imagine you had the same experience. I have to
You know,
imagine.
I have to tell you, I mean, sadness, despair. In 2009, I had friends in Espanola who had actually said, please think about running for governor. And one of the things I learned at that time was that heroin addiction was a family thing. It was generational. And the numbers tell me it has not improved. And I want to go back to root causes, and that's really nice, but it's not a simple root cause.
Right.
But what happened to the concept of teaching our children that their bodies are special and that you have to take care of it? And if it's a generational thing, that message is completely lost.
right.
And then once they're there, I'm with Dee Dee, there is no place to go. There is
Especially
no
for
place
kids
to
in
go.
rural New Mexico.
That's
No
right.
place.
That's right. That's right. Harry, you know, this affects teachers as well.
Exactly.
You can't have students coming into class
Right.
expecting them to learn things if they're wrecked. It just doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? So not even high school, but even college age.
Exactly.
I have to imagine that Anderson School, we're talking a bit of a
Right.
different profile, but in general terms, your thoughts on this?
Well, a couple of things. One is you don't need to have a lot of drug-addicted kids in a class like elementary school or high school for it to be incredibly disruptive. So those kids would be a huge drain on teacher resources. I would suspect that a lot of those kids don't wind up at UNM or being able to get to Anderson, which is a senior level program.
That's right.
I think I would agree with everybody else that there are some really, really significant problems, which is why it's incredibly troubling that the inpatient Center for Teens is going to be closing.
Let's talk about that. That's the last one in the state.
Yeah.
Specifically for teens. Let me get a little pivot here. I want to get your all's opinion on this. Is this about priorities, or what was your sense of that closing of this one teen center where
Right.
was mentioned by the senator it's the only place you could work on the very serious side of addiction, detox?
Detox.
Yeah.
Well, it's only been open for 3 years, and I remember when it opened, it was really a partnership across the aisle to try to get that open. So there's been a lot that's been written about the treatment regime. Is opioid replacement being prescribed for the kids there? But I can't believe, given all the numbers that we're talking about, that there's only an average of 5 kids at any one time that are taking advantage of that. And then you add to that the fact that we only have 6 or 8 outpatient centers. So the state listed 8. 2 of them apparently are closed in a very, very far-flung state.
That's right. That's right. Let me go back to the center for a quick second on that. I heard you wanted to pick up on something Harry
Yeah,
mentioned
because
there.
we do have a few standing residential treatment centers,
right.
but they require detox before you can enter the
right.
residential treatment thing.
Let me ask you a question on this average of 5 teens in these beds. Is this to your mind? Was this a question of not enough, efforts? I mean, no one could convince me that we
Jennifer
can't
Weiss,
fill.
Jennifer
you know what I
Weiss,
mean? It's crazy.
It's some sort of inefficient management of this facility.
Right.
And I think at the Health and Human Services Committee meeting on this matter, they were asking, was this a cost-cutting? Was this a cost-cutting simply tack? And in fact, was it legal to shift the $2 million
right.
for this facility into something else to answer their budget problems in the Department of Health?
That's right.
And I really am worried about the Department of Health now and how it's running things.
Because even their statement was rather cold-blooded, Janice Arnold-Jones.
I would say, but I
Wow.
just do not buy the numbers. And so, are there too many financial hurdles? I have just gone through this with a dear friend who has plenty of resources, and we could not find a place for her child. Could not find it. And then you look at the outpatient places. If you don't have X amount of insurance, if you've got Medicaid, well, you can't go there.
I think that's the problem.
The whole thing, this is crazy.
Listen, I think that this administration is losing their mind if they're going to close down the only youth treatment facility.
What is it?
I think it's crazy, especially with the numbers we've just seen. I think someone's tone deaf.
Is there
to
anybody
what's
here at this
happening.
table or watching who doesn't believe we can't fill that facility with
Well,
teens if
but
we
here-
really
but here-
wanted
but
to?
here's the
Of
flip-
course we
but Gene,
could.
here's
I
the
mean,
flip
it's
side.
incredible.
But Gene, here's the flip side, and this is not a hit on the Democrats. I mean, Susana Martinez did it. We keep growing the rolls of Medicaid, which means now we tell these types of entities, you get $25 a day to take care of a kid.
That's
They
right.
can't afford to do that. And so when you look at someone like Janice's friend, She may be one of only 100 kids that need to go to that facility that can afford to pay.
Right.
So what's the option? The option is either
But did
you're-
I not read Jerry Ortiz-Pino say there was $2 million set aside a couple of years ago strictly for teen
Appropriation. It was a
appropriation?
line item.
Right.
So-
It was a
so-
line
What
item.
happened to that? I mean, $2 million can
there
take us a
is.
long way
There-
here.
Well, not necessarily,
No, not
because
that far.
you'd be
Okay.
amazed, because I mean, these facilities are not, I mean, you're talking basically, with teens, you're talking not only about the detox, which is highly expensive,
Right.
with the
Right.
drugs that are needed, the
right.
care that's taken,
Special
the
people that
diets
work
are
there,
done, the special
sure.
people that work with them.
Yep.
Then you got to roll right into the rehabilitation. And on top of that, when we start talking about teens, you can't forget the educational component, right? You can't send a kid to rehab for 6 months and let him
right.
skip
That's
school. So you've got to figure out how to include education.
Mm-hmm.
You got to, and then you got to have the component of the family part, right? Because you got to set that kid up to succeed when he goes home.
You know,
right.
It
it
can be
sounds
expensive.
almost, it sounds in some insurmountable in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you do need to remember that New Mexico has 20 years ago faced this same crisis and has responded in a very progressive way. For
Mm-hmm.
example, with needle exchange. We were the first state in the union to do that
Reminder.
harm reduction approach. And then we followed up 10 years later with the use of Suboxone, which is a life-saving drug. So if there are the proper policies in place, we can make some gradual progress.
It's not
in this
insurmountable.
area.
I don't believe it's insurmountable. I believe it's doable, but I believe it comes back to, and I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek, Gene, when you and I argue all the time.
Sure.
It's about priorities,
Yes.
right? And so if we're going to just blanketly expand Medicaid, then you're not going to have the monies to go in and do these things. I would think in a state of almost 2.5 million,
Sure.
2.25 million people,
Sure.
with the numbers you've seen. I mean, top 2, top 4, top 5.
How could it not be a
percent,
priority?
that
That's right.
Somebody somewhere would say the state's going to step in a private
right.
partner relationship
That's right.
and say we're going to build a facility that's going to take care of our kids, and once we perfect the process, we'll open it up to out of state, and maybe it could become a profit center.
That's right. Janice, I want to finish with you on this.
Well, I'm saying, but then there is this other component. It's bad enough when you realize your child is addicted to any of these harder drugs, but you look at a program, and
right.
one of the things that they learn very quickly from staff is, well, you know, your child is going to go in here, and some of these may be hardcore criminals, and they may actually come out worse than when they came in. And I was stunned to get that multiple times as we were trying to help my friend.
Interesting. Ooh, this one's going to continue, isn't it? We got to get after this. Now, when we come back to the line, we'll discuss a new report that focuses on who has access to the internet in New Mexico, and more importantly, who doesn't.
You know,